So I was kind of hesitant on making this video because strictly because of the offense that O'Neal Cruz has provided. But after really thinking about it, and someone actually typed this down in one of my videos, and for a while was like, probably not going to happen. But then the trade deadline happened, and I'm like, maybe I should give this a second thought. What's going on, everybody? I'm Mac, back with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram. Link is in the box below. Oneil Cruz. A lot of people have given up on the guy, and for a little bit I did, because mainly because of his inability to hit breaking balls, because he's a strikeout machine. But defensively, we can't ignore that either. You're talking about a team that has had a very potent pitching staff this year, at least a solid rotation this year. The bullpen has just been a complete mess. All right. And what I'm getting at is that it has very little room for error. And when they do commit errors, it costs them big time. Oneil Cruz, in that third game against the Astros, had that horrendous error that allowed Houston to cash in and basically win the game. You know, now I'm not going to sit down here and be like, well, we should have, I'm pissed off that we didn't sweep the Astros or anything. I'll gladly take 2 out of 3 against them, but it was just the way that it happened. And with Oneil Cruz's defense this year, especially now that we get IKF at the deadline, who can play shortstop. He can play shortstop. He can play any position in the infield. Someone brought it up about, well, should we move Oneil Cruz to the outfield or should we DH him? At first, I kind of shot it down a little bit because that was actually before the deadline. And I was like, no, because who else are we going to put at shortstop? We ain't putting Leo Piguero there. And second base is Nick Gonzalez's to lose at this point. But he's hurt now. So who are we going to put at short? There's an answer to that right there. When Nick Gonzalez is healthy, he's getting second base. And at this point, you could put IKF at short. Now, I'm not, sitting down here and advocating that we should make Jared Triolo our everyday second baseman. Personally, I think we're going to move on from Jared Triolo. But here's how it should be. IKF, you should put at shortstop. You should put Brian De La Cruz in the outfield. Andrew McCutchen is eventually going to retire. And I think there you either have the option of putting Oneil Cruz in the outfield or DHing him. Because think of how much ground that Oneil Cruz can cover when he's, I would say, more specifically in right field. Because we know Jack Sawinski is eternally frustrating as well, too. So I say, why not put Brian De La Cruz and Oneil Cruz in the outfield right there to complement Brian Reynolds? And just have Sawinski and Michael A. Taylor just be utility guys, basically. And if you have to keep Jared Triolo, make him be your backup. But me personally, I don't know if I would keep Oneil Cruz at short anymore. I mean, think about the arm strength that he has. He covers a lot of ground. He fires missiles. I think he'd be great for, picking off runners at home plate or whatever when there's going to be a close play at home plate. He doesn't seem to be able to cover as much ground at shortstop, and it's been leading to a lot of errors. So I'm now officially on board with putting Oneil Cruz in the outfield, see how that goes. And if it doesn't work out, then I would DH him. because the kind of hitter that Oneil Cruz is, he's a pull happy hitter. He does hit the ball hard, and he can. And we know that he can like hit it a country mile. We know he can. He has that strength at the plate. He has all the intangibles to be a great player. He's inconsistent. And when you're inconsistent, that's not what we're gunning for here. Especially with a player who's as high as caliber as Oneil Cruz, or at least what we made him out to be. And it just hasn't been working out. Okay? So, if we have to keep him, either DH him or put him in the outfield. Any way you look at it, he can't be the shortstop anymore. He's not he's just not an infielder to me. And that third game against Houston proved it to me, especially now that we get IKF at the deadline, like I said. Going forward, this is what I want the middle of the infield to look like. Gonzalez is your second baseman, IKF is your shortstop, and Cabrian Hayes is a third base. For the time being, Roddy Tellez is going to be at first base, but when we move on from him, because we know that he's not going to be here forever, Connor Joe's probably going to be at first base, and then eventually got Tamar Johnson coming up from the farm. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, Tamar Johnson at first, Gonzalez at second, IKF at short, Cabrian Hayes at third. I think we're going to move on from Jared Triolo, like I said. But if we're going to hold on to Jared Triolo for at the end of the year, have Jared Triolo be your backup. Any way you look at it, you got to start using IKF. And then your outfield, I wouldn't mind having it be Brian De La Cruz, Brian Reynolds, and Oneil Cruz. And like I said, if it's not Oneil Cruz in the outfield, DH him or move on from Jack Sawinski and get someone else right there, or even experiment with Michael A. Taylor a little bit more. Who knows? But the ultimate point of everything is this. I'm done with Oneil Cruz as a shortstop. And the fact that Derek Shelton still put him in the lineup Friday night against Arizona after that error, that right there shows me that Derek Shelton is fine with the errors that are being made. Like I said, you cannot have this much room for error when your pitching staff is consistently keeping you in games and they don't have that big of room for error. That's what Shelton does not understand. And this is why I sit down here and say this. Yes, the Bucks have been on a nice run lately. Yes, we've been playing better ball lately, but it's not because of Shelton. It's in spite of him. And it's really evident with that. You got IKF at the deadline who can play every position in the infield. What's the point of getting him at the deadline if you're not going to use him? Put him at short. Get Oneil Cruz out of shortstop. Plain simple. And then maybe I can have a better report of Oneil Cruz. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'm Mac, checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.